So it says you are now live. So I should be going now. Let me just double check. 1 second. Cool. Here we go. All right. Let me get my light. Ready to go. I'm about to get you in here soon. My friend, let me just talk to the people real quick and introduce you. Okay. So I think I should be good on lighting and everything like that. Okay. So what's going on, guys? It's Rekka back again, AnimeBackWhen. I have a special guest, and I'm going to explain where I got this guy from and why I want him on the channel and why I feel like he is important. Now, in 2015, I was in college. It's funny because I'm actually in school again now, but I was in my early first stretch of college back in 2015, and I was in love with I'm just looking at the comments here, so I'm getting distracted. Let me not look. But what's up, Flex? Ukano, Dragon Ball manga. But yeah, so I was in college at the time, and I was falling in love with golden era anime and just anime as a whole in a way that I had never been into it before. Because up until that point, anime was something that every now and then, like, I would get hit by one little series, and I would be like kind of messing with that series, and then I would go off and be chasing behind girls or games or whatever I was doing. But something in 2015 bit me into a way where this is why AnimeBackWhen exists now. So Bob Samurai was one of those guys that I was watching as far as you excuse me, I'm getting over a flu. As far as YouTube goes, Bennett the Sage, Anime Abandoned, Anime Everyday, Lewis, I know he's gone now, and other guys. But there was another guy that I watched religiously at the time who was putting out videos on collecting, and it was something that I honestly I hadn't seen it up to that point, and I haven't seen it since. Like it was like his channel was dedicated towards collecting, and I'm not going to talk too deeply on it. I want to bring him in, and this guy is named the Anime Collector, and we're going to listen to his story today. Now I'm hearing his story for the first time also, so please pay attention just as much as you don't know who he is as far as his story, neither do I. So let me bring him in here.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Not much. Just got a few minutes, or I guess about an hour and a half before I got to go pick up my kids from school.
Oh, that's no problem, man. That's more than enough time.
Perfect.
But man, you look the exact same as you did in them videos.
Oh man, that's impossible.
No,
I have about half as much hair.
Aside from the hair, you look the exact same to me.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
But man, like, so just talk to the people about who you are. Like, you know, let us know where you're from, and let us know your background in anime. Now, I might interrupt you from time to time if I feel like there's something that you say that I want you to expand on for the people.
Sure.
But for now, go ahead and like give us an introduction.
Oh God. Okay. Let's see. So do you remember Silent Mobius?
Of course. Of course.
I don't have an exact date of when I would consider myself starting collecting. But the first box set that I bought, where I made the cognitive decision of I picked it up because I was thinking.
Well, not to cut you, but where did let's go to where you started, like with anime. So
yeah. So I'm trying to get I'm trying to set a scene here. So I'm just saying, like, in terms of the year, right? I sort of like, I mean, I've been watching, I think most people have been watching anime for the majority of their lives and didn't know necessarily that it was anime.
That it was
Right.
anime.
So, for example, Nickelodeon had a show, I forget the name of it, about a koala. Like, that was an anime that they adapted over here, and you'd never know that it was anime just because it was just a kid's cartoon in Japan that they localized and, you know, took out all the Japanese text and all those sort of things, right? And so this happens all the time, you know, and you'd be amazed to find out, for example, Thundercats was animated by a Japanese studio. TMS animated
Wow.
Inspector Gadget, right?
You remember Cyber 6?
Yeah, exactly.
Was an anime too. Canadian collaborative.
Right.
With us.
So that kind of thing is like, it's hard to say. I think most people would have a hard time pinpointing the moment that, you know, where they got started with anime, right? But I watched it religiously through my whole childhood, you know, just whatever I could get my hands on. And then I would say, in terms of collecting, I probably started around maybe 2005 or 2004.
So that was time.
Then. Yeah, well, I mean, I was collecting Dragon Ball Z on VHS back in the day, so that predates, you know, 2003, 2004. But I kind of look at like collecting, you know, because when it came to Dragon Ball Z, that was more like I bugged my parents enough to pick it up for me, you know, and like if my parents had a date night and we had a babysitter, you know, like we would go to the mall or wherever, like Blockbuster, whatever, and pick up a Dragon Ball Z, whatever the most recent release tape was, and that would be what would keep my brother and I entertained while my parents were on a date night with the baby when we were with the babysitter, right? But in terms of like collecting, I would say that the first set that I bought and cognitively made the decision, I was picking it up and I was collecting it. Like, I was the start of the collection was the Anime Legends box set for Silent Mobius.
Wow.
Right? So whatever date that came out, I picked it up from Best Buy. That was the moment.
That's an interesting one, like, to start with, you know, because that's such an obscure anime.
Yeah.
That's the one about the occult, right? The Lucifer Hawk.
Yeah.
That one,
man, oh God. The memories of it just flooded back in my head when you said Lucifer Hawk. That's crazy. I haven't thought about the show in years, you know. I saw it when it was on G4 Tech TV back in the day.
That's the one that I think Peacemaker was over there.
Yeah, I think it was Peacemaker. I think Better Man was over there. I think Soul Taker might have been on it. I didn't watch a lot on there. I did watch Read or Die.
Okay.
Wait, was Read or Die on there? No, I'm thinking of Gatekeepers 21 is the one I watched over there. Okay. I don't remember if Read or Die was over there. I think Serial Experiments Lane was on that channel as well. Wow. So there's a couple things, you know, and like I said, as a kid growing up, I was kind of seeking out, you know, whatever I could find. And this is, you know, even pre-internet, you know, trying to immerse myself in finding these things because they were so fascinating and different compared to what was on TV, you know, for the most part.
Stories of why we gravitated to anime.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a shame now, actually, because we went to anime because it was different from what's in the mainstream. And now that anime has become mainstream, you know, like, for example, in the last podcast I did, I covered the fact that when Studio Trigger was producing Cyberpunk Edge Runners,
I was going to bring that up.
The team at CD Projekt Red, they tried to veto the character of Rebecca for being a lolly, right? So the point being that we gravitate to anime for being different and being unique and having an edge to it, right? And then when it becomes mainstream, it's kind of a double-edged sword here because now there's what I call a colonization of anime where cultures want to embrace it and import it and bring it in, but at the same time they also want to change it and make it appeal more to their sensibilities, which I think is the wrong move personally.
It's completely stripping it of its culture at that point.
Exactly.
You know. But okay, so it started with Silent Mobius, and like I said, that's an episode. So would you say Silent Mobius, that being the first collection one, did that kind of shape like what you would be interested in? Because somebody like me, my first anime collection thing that I ever had was like Mewtwo Returns or something like that from Pokemon. My mom bought me the VHS for that, right?
I mean, I probably had the Digimon movie on DVD before I bought Silent Mobius, but I didn't think about, like, if something was bought for me by a parent, I didn't consider it, like, I wasn't like, I kept it, and I kept it nice. Like, I had a tendency as a kid to not throw away the boxes and, you know, that kind of thing. But I didn't really consider it collecting until I was investing my own money into it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, anyway, continue what you're saying.
Yeah, so I was asking you, do you think that that shaped like the type of anime that you would be into? Because watching your videos and the animes that you would bring up, it's not surprising to me that Silent Mobius would have been like your introduction. So like you said, Master Keaton was your, I don't know if it still is, but it was your favorite.
It's in my top 3.
It's your top 3. And then you also brought up like that you watch Elsia, I think Garzy's Wing. Like these are obscure, you know, as opposed to the shonen. Because for me, I was a big like shonen guy for, you know, majority of my anime watching career and collecting career, so to speak. So for me, it was Yu Yu Hakusho and Dragon Ball, and so those were the things that I like. The first time I ever made my own purchase was like a volume of Yu Yu Hakusho from the Shishio arc, right? And that kind of shaped my collection in the early days. So yeah, that's why. So would you say that Silent Mobius shaped like what you collect? And I'm gonna lead that.
So I've got it. The answer is yes and no, for an interesting reason. Because when it comes to the way that I consume anime, especially back then, when I first started collecting, I made it a rule for myself that I had to own everything that I watched.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Right. And so that shaped how I consumed anime and how I collected it. Right. And when I was doing that, so I first of all, I wouldn't say that in terms of what I chose to watch, I would not say that Silent Mobius shaped that at all, because I watch anything. Like I'll watch Love Live, even though I haven't watched Love Live, but I'll watch stuff like that. You know, I'll watch action, I'll watch romance, I'll watch whatever it is. Like I don't have like I mean, there are things I prefer more than other things, but you know, I will give everything a shot, and I'll find something I like about just about every genre. Right. But when it comes to collecting, I would say that Silent Mobius was a huge impact on how I collected, because something about those, like, what are they, 48 millimeter, 24 millimeter Anime Legends box sets, like something about that, I just loved that. And to this day, it's one of my favorite box set types.
Having those on the shelf and like having an abundance of them.
Oh, I loved it. Dot Hack, like having all of them next to each other, and then they screwed it up with Roots and didn't make one, you know. Yeah, so that definitely, like, if it was released in an Anime Legends, you know, box set like that, I'd pick it up, definitely. You know, so I would say that influenced me. And as I said, at that time, the way that I approached what I was watching is that if I watched it, I had to own it. But very quickly, it became impossible to fulfill that, because I was watching stuff and then it wouldn't get licensed. Right. So what I did instead is I changed the way that I collected to, I exclusively watch what I own. So I stopped watching new anime that was coming out, and I would wait until I could physically possess the discs, and then I would watch it that way. And that has made it a lot more manageable. But it has also made it so that I get a phone call. It also has made it so that I have to buy everything blind, which has been an experience when it comes to collecting and watching anime, because sometimes you get a 10 out of 10 that you had absolutely no idea going into. And other times, more often than not, you sit through some absolute trash and you're like, I can't believe I spent, you know, $60 on this.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought up the exclusive thing, because I want you to know I adapted that for
Oh
years
yeah.
because you said that, and I thought it was just the most. I thought it was just the most brilliant thing as somebody that was trying to collect,
Mm-hmm.
and because I was like, it gives me a way to like keep control over what I'm doing and not waste all my money on it, and then it also keeps me constantly exploring new anime.
Yeah,
I kept that for a very, very long time, which is why some of these reviews take so long for me to put out. So I want you to know
that's an interesting area of my sort of online persona that I've caused other people to pick up. I think it's great in some ways because partially the goal of starting the channel was to get more people into collecting. And I think that's been somewhat successful. I honestly, when I look back at the channel, I feel like I did very little in terms of like the actual amount of content, because almost immediately after starting it, I ran into some issues that just made it impossible to keep going easily the way that I was.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that of all things has been something that you're not the first person who's told me that you've adopted that principle.
I'm telling you, like when you said that, I was like, this is brilliant, because this like puts it causes it to be like a well-oiled machine, especially as a reviewer. Now, since then, I've had to get myself out of that because I'm less of a collector now than I was like 3, 4, 5 years ago. So now
collecting has changed a lot since then too.
It has, and a lot of it is space, but we'll
definitely
cover all of that. We'll cover all of that.
Yeah.
So okay, so now, so you said Silent Mobius, the 27 millimeter or the 26 millimeter boxes, so it shaped you in that kind of a way. So let's
28. It's 28 millimeter. Just
28?
It clicked in my head. Yeah, it's 28 millimeter.
Cool.
Because 14 is the default.
Oh, that's the skinny.
Yeah. The default, like a normal. I got something here. Hold on. A normal DVD. Pretend this is a DVD. Is 14 millimeter. So the other ones are double the size. They're the 28 millimeter is for the Anime Legends.
Okay. So you said Silent Mobius was the first one that you picked up. Now, when would you say that you like were an avid collector? So not like, oh, I got one thing in March and then I don't get something till June, and then I don't, like, when were you like, okay, every week? Because I know you've probably been through that before, where every week, multiple times a week or a day, you have packages coming in the mail. And
yeah, so let's see. In 2007, that was the year I spent $1,000 at Anime Expo and got a stack of DVD box sets that was taller than I was. So I would say that in terms of like every day, pretty much stuff's coming in the mail, or at least every week. Probably 2016 till like 2018 was like that was probably the time when I was like, literally after I started the channel, I doubled my collection in only like 2 years.
Wow. So this is context, because I thought that most of your collecting days was like before the channel.
Well, I would say that, I mean, in terms of time, yes. And back in those days, before I started the channel, because again, collecting has changed a lot. So back in those days, though, I would physically go to locations to try to buy things in person, because I felt like and I still very much feel this way. When you buy something and you like bought it at, like, let's say that you're shopping on Right Stuff, for example, and you need that cart topper to get it to free shipping threshold or something like that. That item gets to your house. You even forgot you bought it. It goes in your collection. You never think about it again. And then when you see it, you don't even remember why you bought it, right? But the stuff that you actually had to really search for is the stuff that you remember. Like you have a memory attached to the process of obtaining. And for me, that was the thing that I really I strove for when it came to collecting, because I felt like so much of my life has been, surrounding anime. In fact, I met my wife at Anime Expo in 2006. Wow. So much of my life is around this hobby that the memories are things that I really cherish about it. Like when I go out of my way to buy something because I met somebody at a convention who was cosplaying the character, for example, and so back in the day, I was going, like every time I would go out, I'd hit like 4 or 5 stores. Occasionally, once a month or so, you'd plan a trek where you would go, maybe 50 to 80 miles further than you would normally go just to try to hit some stores in other parts of your state or whatever, so or wherever you live, and so that's the kind of way I was collecting back then. And then once when I started like around 2016 and onward, and when I doubled the size of the collection and everything, which it's probably 3 times bigger than it was when I started now. But like I said, in terms of time, yes, I most of my time spent collecting was before starting the channel in 2014. But in terms of size, once collecting changed and it was all about, just get stuff online because they don't even basically sell it. And if you do go to a store to buy it, you're overpaying, compared to what you could get. And then Sentai sales where everything is a penny, that's I think where my collection exploded in size because it was so cheap to get things. You'd be stupid not to pick it up. But at the same time, that's also where you pick up a ton of trash that is being sold super cheap because it's crap, So
have you ever, because I have to ask this question too. Have you ever gone to thrift stores, pawn shops? Okay, so you're cool with the used.
Oh yeah, so it's sort of an unofficial rule when I was collecting early was I never paid full price.
There we go.
Yeah, so I would go like my go-to place was back in the day. GameStop used to sell used DVDs, and so I would go to like every GameStop in the area back when there actually were quite a few.
I heard they were good for movies.
Oh yeah, they were great.
Used movies.
Yeah, and you could find all sorts of stuff there, and it was weird because they always seemed to have the same stuff. I don't know how many GameStops I went to that had like 100 copies of Amon Saga.
Alike, I guess. Everybody.
I guess. I think it's more likely that somebody, like that. For example, Amon Saga might not have sold super well, and somebody just had stock of it and just unloaded it at one GameStop, and that GameStop sent it across to the other GameStop so that they didn't have 1,000 of them in the same store. But I don't know. It just seemed like they always seem to have a lot of the same stuff, and you'd find stuff like occasionally you just find absolute gold. Like I went to FYE. That's where I picked up the Card Captor Sakura original Geneon box set with the digipacks.
Wow.
And my first time going to Book Off, I picked up almost all of City Hunter, the original Super Techno Arts JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with the art box. Just like, you go to a store and you just, you'll drop $1,000 at one store because they just happen to have like everything on your checklist.
So like you seriously found the 94 JoJo used in wow.
In mint condition. Unbelievable luck.
I think 50% of my collection is like I'm from Toronto, so in Canada we use this thing called Kijiji.
Okay.
And like it's just like Craigslist, but it's like a Canadian version. And like I'd say 40% of my collection, as far as like the rare stuff, came from there for like $20 when I could have paid $1,000 for it. Yeah.
Nice.
So I had to ask you that one because I see you have a huge collection and you have a lot of rares, which we're gonna get to the rares soon. But I assume you had to have been also collecting used.
Oh yeah.
But on the topic of rares, so I want to know what's the rarest thing that you've gotten and what are your rules when it comes to rares, because that's something you did address on the channel.
So the rarest thing. So here's the weird thing about rare anime. Rare does not mean good, and it also doesn't mean worth it. But I would say
a lot of rare trash out there.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not just that it's trash, but like for example, one of the rarest things I have is a Kickstarter for it's called Zunda Horizon. Okay. And it's from it was a relief project done for the Tohoku earthquake in Japan. And I think I am one of 2 people who backed the tier that actually produced a Blu-ray.
Wow.
So that would theoretically make that the rarest thing in the collection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I've never opened it because you can't, because it's the rarest thing you have,
Because
right?
no one has it.
But I've seen photos of it online from the Japanese person who bought the other one, right? So far as I know, only 2 of them were picked up.
Mm-hmm.
But does that one count? Because it's like a special thing for Kickstarter, and I think it's technically a Japanese Blu-ray, even though we're the same region code, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, in terms of region 1, quote unquote, releases, things that were intended for North America, the rarest things that I have are the Imagine Asian releases of Nobody's Boy Remy, Orgus, and Cat's Eye. Now,
Okay.
and like I said, rare does not mean good, because
Mm-hmm.
Orgus, first of all, these were all released on print on demand DVDs. So you would actually buy the case, right, like with volume 1,
Mm-hmm.
and the disc is purple because it's burned. And then you would actually order, like a mail order system, volumes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, or whatever it was,
Yeah.
as they came out. And the other discs in the box set, as you put them in, they have a barcode on the top of the disc because they were released as just the disc. There weren't any individual DVDs for it. And here's the thing: they're on burn DVDs, so automatically they're less good quality, right? And Cat's Eye, it was only season 1, and now Discotek's releasing a Blu-ray of the whole show,
I've
right?
seen.
So like that's the better way to get it, right? So rare, as I said, doesn't mean good. Doesn't It's not really worth getting. Same with Orgus. Nobody's Boy Remy, I only have the case in disc 1. I'm still trying to obtain the other 7 discs,
Mm-hmm.
which most likely I will just be buying the whole box set. If it pops up, that's how it's going to be released.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to get it, I'm sure. I don't see a scenario where I will just get, the 7 discs by themselves kind of thing. But yeah, those are definitely the rarest things in my collection.
Okay.
Just simply because so few of them were made. In fact, because of how they were released, where it's a box, and then over time you had to keep up on ordering the next disc and the next disc. The only people who got them really wanted them, and so as time goes on, there's fewer and fewer for disc 8 versus disc 1, right? Because
Yep.
people bought it. The show was like, it was okay, but I'm going to put my money towards something else because it wasn't that good, right? So then as time goes on and they're releasing those later volumes, not as many of them got made. And again, like I said, the people who wanted them got them. So until Discotek or somebody releases Nobody's Boy Remy on Blu-ray, I'm sure that I'm not probably going to be able to obtain the actual original release that I want, which is something I want just because it's rare, and like I said, rare does not mean worth it or valuable. Well, I mean, it's valuable, but not necessarily. The product isn't valuable. It's valuable only because of the legacy of the set. Yeah.
Okay. So how much do you have? Like, how much do you have?
So the way that I factor how many I have is by UPC. So for example, the barcode on a set is what I consider counting it as one, right? One. So if it's a box set and it only has one barcode, right? Because it's like those anime legend sets, they might have 6 discs, but they've only got one barcode, that counts as one. Whereas if it's the individual DVDs that are sold and you put them in the art box, then that might be 6 individual DVDs, right? So if that's the threshold, it's around 5,000.
Well, no, I kind of that's cool, but I kind of meant like if you had your collection in a room. Now, last time I asked you about your collection, you said that you got uprooted from where you were.
I'm it's currently in a storage unit. I can provide you an image though.
Yeah, we could do that, but like if you walked in a room, like how many bookcases are we talking, and like that kind of.
Let me think. I should have I took a panoramic photo.
Okay.
And so that'll show you the whole thing. And my bookcases are the Billy bookcases from IKEA. And I've got the added 2 extra shelves, which you have to buy, and I did that whole tutorial on it on my channel. So the 2 extra shelves, and then I have an extender shelf for the top shelf that I think makes 9 shelves. And if I'm okay, here we go. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 10 of them.
Okay.
So, but because of the extra shelf on top, it actually is. It's like having an entire, extra bookcase. So more like 11.
Okay.
Let me send you the image in the private chat if you want to.
Well, I have you full screen here. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I guess I can screen share. Can't
Yeah.
I? Okay, let me do that. I'm amazed to see that the image is actually remarkably small, unfortunately. But let me just go ahead and let's see. Let's see. I added it, but I think you have to add it to the stream the same way you added me.
Let's see.
Do you see it next to me in the bottom?
No. I see.
That's weird.
I don't know if it's because I'm on my phone here or.
Hold on. Let me do it again.
There's Brian.
I'm adding it back in. There you go. You see it?
No, I can't.
All right. Let me post it in the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me do that. Let me see. I've got the chat window up somewhere. Hold on. Here it is. Oh dear Lord, that's a long URL. Oh, the URL is longer than the. Hold on. It's all right. Just give me a second. Okay, so it's on my Anime Planet profile, which is where I'm pulling it from. So if I send that instead, because what I did is I right clicked and did open a new thing. So let me just send you that instead, because that's not going to exceed the character limit.
Okay.
All right. I think it'll post. It posted for me. I don't know if the audience sees it.
And this is in the comment section?
Yeah, the YouTube live chat.
Oh, the YouTube live. Well, I don't see anything on YouTube live here. Do you guys see anything? I don't see.
Here, I'm posting it in private chat. I don't know if it'll be easier for you to.
I see it.
Uh-oh. I think he clicked on the link and it pulled him out of the stream. Are you there?
You still have me?
Yep.
Okay. So when I click this link, because I see the picture, how would I get it on the screen?
Well, it's a little difficult because you're doing it on your phone. But a way that you could do it, I don't know if you can upload on your phone, but you can put it in one of the brands on StreamYard, and you can click on the image and it'll go full screen on the image.
Okay.
I wonder if I can change my mic or my camera input to my screen and do it that way.
Sorry. Okay, you guys still have me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have you said brand?
Yeah. So
I should be able to upload it here.
Yeah. If you're are you on your phone still, or are you on the computer as well?
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I actually have the picture on my phone, so I should be able to just upload it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would upload it as.
So let me pull up. I'll go into a different. I'm used to being on the other end of a StreamYard call where I can actually see. I'm going to try to enter one of my old broadcasts on another tab and see if I can walk you through it. Okay, so you see it says comments, banners, and brand.
Yep.
So you click on brand,
and
then in the overlay section, like at the top, it says brand color, theme, logo, and then overlay. Click the plus to add the image into the overlay.
It says one example. If you like to use your own, or I have to upgrade. so I can't.
Oh, because you got
Okay,
the StreamYard demo.
it's cool. It is cool.
So let me just go to AnimePlanet.com, anime-planet.com, and then at the end type /u. Here, I'll post.
Yeah, you guys.
I'll do it this way. I'll do that.
See. Hold on. I just.
Oh, there you go. That's my screen share.
Okay, cool.
So this is it.
I'm gonna solo this out.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so let me see if I can. Oh yeah. My wife is calling me. Okay, so this is the panorama of my full collection as of sometime in. Actually, I think I put the date. Yeah, taken December 6th, 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, so it has grown quite a bit since then. And so right here, this is 10 bookcases, right? So there's one here. So there's 3 on this wall. There's 4 on this wall, and then there's 3 more on this wall. And it not only is completely filled, it's actually overflowing on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 shelves are overflowing. So that's more than an entire another bookcase. That's almost 2 more. So that's like 12 bookcases full.
So that takes me to the next question. So what do you do when you run out of space? Like, how do you handle the space issue? Because the space issue is like a big thing when it comes to collect. I think that
absolutely. Yes. The walls were closing in on me when I was in this room. Right.
Wow.
So the answer to that question is expand, get a new location that's bigger. But obviously, especially right now, that is not super easy to do in terms of like the finances obviously required to just, get a bigger house, so if opportunity isn't coming with it, like higher paying jobs or, let's say like, it's obviously it's not a simple option. The alternative option is to upgrade, right? So for example, Fist of the North Star, you might have the 4 box sets that Discotech released, or you might just buy the standard def Blu-ray and condense all that down to just one spine, so that's the smart thing. I mean, as you can see, if you go back to the screen real quick.
Shout out to Bob Samurai. Bob Samurai is in here.
Oh, hey man.
And somebody said, "Guess I know where I'll be going to watch anime during apocalypse."
Yeah, right. Honestly, the thought has not slipped my mind at all that I may at some point need this to survive some sort of a post-apocalyptic scenario. So if you see right here, this entire shelf is Urusei Yatsura. It's volumes 1 through 50 and the 5 OVAs and 5 movies or whatever it is. So I think it's or maybe is it like 62, 72, whatever the total number is. So that right there is about to get replaced, I'm sure, by Discotech releasing some Blu-rays that are gonna significantly knock down
and that's going to happen because they have the new series coming out next month.
Right.
That's going to.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's what you should be doing. The only problem is that companies are not always. I mean, Discotech aside, companies are not always keen on actually making the upgrades an upgrade. So yeah, you might put it out on a Blu-ray, but that doesn't mean that it has the commentary tracks, the special features, the outtakes. So that's where it gets really tricky. As a collector, because for me, it's like I'm not getting rid of any of it. I am stubbornly holding on to the idea that at some point I will have the finances necessary to keep expanding it, which is the lie I tell myself every day. And I don't think about it right now because it's all in the storage unit, except for the stuff I've collected since then, which is piling up at home. But yeah, realistically, what you want to be doing is condensing the stuff down, and occasionally you might just want to, look at something that realistically you looked at and thought, wow, that was trash, and just get rid of it. Sell it on eBay, do something,
like
give it away,
what
give it to a friend.
What I've done recently is I've been going through exactly like you said. It's just the financial part of it is kind of annoying because it's like if I already have it, that's what you tend to tell yourself. But I like Chobits. I have the original 6 volumes for that, and I'm like, why not just get if anything, get the anime classics version, and Basilisk. they have Blu-ray versions that are much more condensed, and I've been finding I save a lot of space when I downgrade, or not downgrade, but when
condense it with that upgrade.
Bob Samurai asks, do you back up your DVDs on a home server?
I can't even imagine. I'm looking at the picture. I can't even imagine how many terabytes of data I'd have to do for this. I mean, if you think about a DVD, like a Blu-ray dual layers, like 50 gigabytes, DVDs obviously much less, but no. The answer is no. I do have, for video making, like editing B-roll and stuff into content I'm producing. I do have downloads, because it's just easier than ripping it, unless I can't find it. And then of course I rip it, of anime that I keep on a hard drive, and stuff like that. Like right now, obviously I'm not watching my DVDs that are in the picture because it's in a storage unit, so my own, like if I own the show but I can't access it and I need to watch it for one reason or another, I'll just use a download of it, or I'll try to see if it's on Netflix or something. But no, I don't back everything up. If I realistically, the amount of time that I would spend setting up like a Plex server or something like that, I wouldn't even watch anything. It would take so long to upload everything. You'd never sit down and watch it. And the vast majority of stuff in the photo, you would never, you would spend, months of your life, if not years, getting the metadata put in and making it indexable and all that. And then you will actually never sit down and watch it again on your home server.
My guy Unkono asked what do you do about disk rot? Which I haven't had that experience before.
So disk rot is not modern discs, especially Blu-rays. You will probably not encounter disk rot in your lifetime. It's going to they're sealed well enough that you probably aren't going to experience it. The place where disk rot comes from, like why it's a fear, is Laserdisc. And Laserdisc is like, I think pre-CD. No, not pre-CD. Can't be pre-CD. But the point is that Laserdisc, the technology was in its infancy for putting video on a disc that you could play, right? And so they have improved things drastically, even from there to DVD. And then that much more so from DVD to Blu-ray. So I don't worry about disc rot. Yeah, it's probably happening. In fact, sometimes I wonder, because I'll watch DVDs that I remember looking great on modern TVs, and I cannot believe how trash they look. So I think it's possible that they're degrading in quality, but I couldn't tell you, if that's actually what's happening. And so I'm not concerned about it, honestly, because there are very few things in my collection that I would not be able to find a digital backup of online. And most of them, even if they succumbed to like the worst level of disc rot, I probably would never open them and find out. You know what I mean? Because I just like so many of them, because the way I look at it, let me put it this way. As I said, I try to exclusively watch shows that I own. Right. So that means that I don't usually go back and rewatch something I remember fondly, because I have such an enormous backlog of things that I bought that I haven't watched yet, that there's always something more to consume. So, like I said, if something was susceptible to disc rot, if I've already seen it, I probably am never going to find out that it started to rot, because the chances of me actually pulling that disc out and opening it up and finding out is extremely slim.
Yeah. Nathaniel Rashford, how do you arrange your collection in alphabetical order or by favorites to least liked?
So I do mine alphabetical, even though it
Me
is a
too.
tremendous pain in the ass. When your collection is 10 bookcases long and you've got the overflow shelves, God help you will literally remove something from your cart if it starts with an A, because ain't nobody got time to move all that
Move
shit down.
everything over. Yup. I have that
Oh,
problem. I have three. I have three, and I have that problem.
I cannot believe, like, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna take that long. But seriously, you put one freaking disc in bookcase one in the front slot, and by the end of moving everything down, you have more than a shelf's worth of stuff moving, because that one thing pushed over that one box set to the point where it no longer fits on the shelf, and then
Yup.
7 DVDs get shoved over, and
Yup.
then it happens again and again and again, and it's just like, oh dear Lord, it's awful. Yeah. So so I do mine alphabetically, and then what I tend to do is, like, for example, let's take Dragon Ball, for example. What I do is live action movies, followed by series movies, followed by the show, and then usually OVAs at the end is kind of how I do it.
Okay.
Because in for the most part, uh, obviously there are some exceptions, and when there's an obvious exception, I will change how I sort that particular series.
Yeah.
But typically speaking, I find that movies in almost every series are non-canon, right? They exist in a weird nebulous place where the beginning of the movie happens and the end of the movie happens, and nothing for the rest of the series is altered whatsoever. Nothing consequential happens. So I typically put those at the beginning, even though it's obvious that, you know, this movie timeline within, if you were to try to fit it in the show, might come here or there. I just, for the sake of organizing, because I don't want to, you know, like, have my orange brick sets for Dragon Ball and then try to slot in, oh, this is probably where the first Broly movie goes. You know what
crazy.
I mean? It just ruins the aesthetic of seeing it. So yeah, I do live action movies followed by you know, series movies, then the series itself, and then OVAs, because OVAs tend to take place at the end of a series. Obviously, occasionally there are ones that are intermixed, but it's just sort of my way of organizing it.
So why live action first? Why live action at the top?
Well, it's not necessarily at the top. It's just that they need to go somewhere. And the way I look at it, if I have, let's say I did movies, then live action movies, then I go from animated to live action back to animated. So by putting them first, I look at it as a separation from the previous series in the collection to live action, and then from there it goes into the animated, you know, block of the series, right? So that's just, I think that's why I kind of set it up that way, so that things are just kept together, but, you know, mostly they'll just to keep the animated stuff together and not separate it with the live action.
Okay. So do you have any plans, like, on, because it's been over a year now since you told me in that one stream that you were in storage with your collection. Are you like making plans on getting back, like, your own place where you have some room?
Yeah, so here's basically what happened. In 2019, so I used to work visual effects as my career. I was freelance visual effects artist, and in 2019, I got this, like, impulse telling me I needed to get out of that industry, right? And I had sort of seen over the years. So working freelance visual effects is actually very complicated and difficult because. So this is the way I tell the story: is if my parents got out of college and then wanted to find a job, they could go into town and knock on the doors of all the places that had help wanted signs, and they stand an extremely good chance of landing one of those jobs, probably more than one, right? Or at least an interview, and you know, moving forward on that process. But when you work online as a freelance artist, you're competing not just with the people in your town, but people who have an internet connection all over the world. Yep. And so what that has done, what I experienced as a visual effects artist, was that I would work as one person on a project for somebody, where they would have to choose between paying me whatever I needed, as my rate, or hiring a whole team in China who they would have enough money left over that if they totally botched it, they could hire that second team. So it's like it basically became difficult to keep the money coming in consistently. And the way that my job worked is occasionally, like, I work a month and make 40 grand, and then I wouldn't work for 3 months, 4 months, you know what I mean? So there were times where it was like that. And in 2019, I started to get this compulsive, like this, just, I was having like dreams about it. Like I needed to get out of the VFX industry. Mm-hmm. And so I spent the latter half, or the middle to the end of 2019 looking for another job, literally applying everywhere. And I got to be honest with you, it's remarkably difficult to transition out of a freelance gig, because when you're trying to craft your resume for something you've done as your only professional, like your whole career has been in this one field, you're like, I either have one entry that spans like 12 years, or I have 1,000 entries that people don't really understand. Like, for example, even though I tried to condense things to just my best work or whatever, the things that I thought would make the most sense to wherever I was applying, they would I would get in the interview and they'd be like, so why have you worked 2 weeks at every job you've had for the last 12 years? I'm like, because it's contract work. Like I was like, oh dear Lord, so it was very difficult, but I finally got a job doing something, working minimum wage, but at least I knew that I had money coming in and something like a number I could count on. And then I was still doing freelance visual effects on the side in order to, so basically it helped me to float that gap. And then COVID happened, and there was no VFX work for like a full year and a half because of COVID. And so that sort of started things down this path where my stuff ended up in storage, because
so one thing happens, it's like a snowball effect.
Oh, dude, I cannot believe how quickly I went from never worrying about money to worrying about every single day. Yeah, it was pretty awful. But basically, long story short, it's like during 2019, as I was looking for for another job, we had my wife and I had started basically paying for everything on our credit card, so that we had more cash in the bank to pay rent, because that's not something we could put on a credit card. And so we racked up a little bit of debt. And then when I got the job that I got, it just, like, blessings from the Lord. I just happened to get a job that had unlimited overtime, because it was a warehouse gig, and I had unlimited overtime during like peak season. So like Thanksgiving till Christmas. Right. And I would work, like, I would literally schedule myself every single day for 2 weeks straight, 14 days. And I would get in, clock in at 4:55 in the morning, and I wouldn't clock out until after 9:30 p.m. at night. Right. Wow. And I was getting mad money doing that. It's just like, I always think it's funny though. It's like, I'm working minimum wage. It's the hardest I've ever worked for the least amount of money compared to what I used to do in visual effects and whatnot. But anyway, so I finally got to the point where I actually was feeling confident. Like, and it's crazy because I started at this job doing something I'd never done before. And within 3 months, I was supervisor. And then it came time to the point where I was actually getting like a full-on promotion, and I was going to be bringing in more money. And so I thought, okay, let's pay off the credit card debt. Right. Because we finally felt like we were on stable ground again. So I paid it off. And then 3 days later, before I got my first paycheck with my new position, making much more money and everything, my landlord calls me and tells me he's selling my place. So basically, we were put in a position where we had to move. Right. We didn't have any choice in the matter.
It was a house. This was a house that you were in.
Yeah. I was renting a house in Arizona. I actually moved to Arizona after I started the channel because it just didn't make sense to stay in California where the cost of living was so high when the work I was doing was online.
This is from California.
What's up?
No, I said this is where you're from
Yeah,
originally.
I was born in California. Yeah, so we moved to Arizona, my wife and my family and I, and we paid less per month on rent for way more. Like we went from a crappy apartment with 2 bedrooms where you could hear the neighbors at 24/7 on both sides of you, to now having a full house and paying less, almost $1,000 less in rent.
Wow.
For a whole house, right? So that was the motivation behind moving.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because of COVID, when my landlord sold our place, all the people. It's funny. This is an interesting story, actually. When I moved us back, because we had to move back to California to live with my wife's grandmother, who was in hospice care at the time. When we came back to California, I rented one of those like 30-foot or whatever U-Hauls, like the big ones.
Yeah.
And I brought 90% of my stuff in that trip, right? And then my plan was, once I got back to California, to get one of the really tiny U-Hauls and go back to Arizona and get the last bit of stuff, right? Yep. The stuff that I wanted to move. I didn't want it to be with everything else because it was more, it was like computer equipment and stuff that was just harder to pack. And so I tried to get a U-Haul from California to go to Arizona, and they tried to charge me over $1,000 for it because so many people were fleeing California that they were at a shortage.
What?
Right? Yeah. So this was in 2020, right before the election.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was so bad that I paid, I think, $300 for the 30-foot going to California, but coming back to Arizona, even though I talked them down from 1,000 because of the fact that I was bringing it back. But yeah, they tried to charge me $1,000 for it because of the fact that they had so few in California.
That's crazy.
So, yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and again, like I said, so many people were leaving California and moving to Texas and Arizona and all these other states that the rent skyrocketed, which is, of course, why my landlord found the way he could get us out of the house was by selling it, right? Which I don't even know if he did. I think he probably just got us out of there and then raised the rent because all the other places had gone up over $1,000. So when it came time for us to be put in the situation where he was selling it, we couldn't even go anywhere in Arizona because the cost was up so high. Yeah. Anyway, that's a long story, but there it is. Okay. So yeah, to answer your question though, I would say that the effort has been to get to the point where I could get the stuff out of storage, right?
Yeah.
But when we moved, literally like 90% of everything I owned, except for the collection, we had to take it to Goodwill because I couldn't even bring it with us. There wasn't enough room in the house we were going to. I couldn't even fit my bookcases in the storage unit, So I had to take the anime and ditch the bookcases. So I don't even have the ability to set things back up even if I could bring it in here, so to speak. So to answer your question, no, I mean, I want to get to a place where I can do that, but it's just like we've been treading water ever since 2020 with the COVID stuff.
So my motivation, like to own a house someday, is literally just to have a room, a master bedroom size room, just to have collection and video games.
You sound like me. That's exactly what my thoughts were when I was younger and I was collecting. And I still very much would love to have that, but it just seems like less and less likely that the world is actively moving away from that direction of people having homes and things. And it's like, I hate it when when I was growing up, like the mailman delivered the mail to the house. And now when you look at places to live, it's like, I have to go to this central mail location, 200 feet away from my house. You can't. Yeah. So it's very much not the dream that we were say.
I would say. It can still happen though. It can still happen. Just
it could.
It's a little harder.
Yeah, definitely harder. You just gotta be thinking with a lot more ingenuity these days to try to get yourself to the place where you can bring in that money. And that's one of the reasons why I started doing YouTube, is because I could see it that influence on social media is the currency of the modern digital age. Sure. And so I figured, I think it's the most scalable way of like, if you work at a place and you sort of get to the point where there's nowhere else to go, like you can't go any further, then you have to move right into another career, because you're just going to be making the same amount the rest of your life, maybe adjusted for inflation.
That's your happy.
Yeah, but when it comes to like, for example, YouTube, I would say that has the largest scalable range in terms of your ability to grow an audience and grow your income over time. But it's also one of the hardest ways to do it.
Just that one video sometimes.
Sometimes
hard to that one video.
Oh yeah. We just had one of my co-hosts on the OCA podcast. He just started doing YouTube. His third video was on Genshin Impact, and it's at like 40K in like 2 weeks now, maybe less than 2 weeks. 40K views already.
And here we are doing it for years,
right?
But it is what it is.
When I first uploaded the TikTok, I put up a video. It was a clip from the podcast, and it's at like 87,000 hits. But striking, lightning doesn't often strike twice. You get one video that goes semi-viral, but then you're just left the rest of your time trying to chase that and never getting it again.
Somebody said, John Knight said, the anime collector, are you enjoying Funimation so far? I don't know what he means, I don't know if he means since you're not collecting, or since you don't have your collection.
I don't use Funimation or Crunchyroll.
Okay.
I use Netflix because a family member lets us use their account.
Me too.
Yeah, but I don't use any of the streaming services. And Funimation has been, Funimation doesn't exist anymore, but since Sony bought them, it's been downhill going on the last couple of years. It's just been trash. Right now we've got the thing with Mob Psycho getting a cast change, because even though they were willing to pay the amount that Mob's voice actor wanted, they weren't willing to do the contract as a union contract, and therefore he's getting replaced. They've been awful. So no, I'm not enjoying them.
So I'm gonna ask you one more collection question, and then we'll wrap it up with just some general anime.
Okay.
Question, but so in terms of your collection, like back in those days, like 2003, 4, 5, like take us back to the mind, or like the times of that. Like what was that like? What was like the landscape or the market for collecting? And like, because I, like, for example, before you had thin packs and you had box sets, you had one DVD for $30 a pop. And you had to wait to collect them all, and then they had the art box with the first volume, and then so take me to like the early 2000s collecting, and then how you saw it change like over time. So, and do you prefer then over now, or do you prefer now over then? Like,
Well, I'll start by saying that they both have pluses and minuses, right? Okay. The stuff being produced today, for the most part, is far better. In terms of the actual release is of a better value, right? It's cheaper. The dubs are way better today for the most part than they were back in the day. But back in the day when I was collecting, it was Geneon was king in terms of like the most expensive but also most premium box sets. Whereas another company would release something as 6 volumes, Geneon would stretch it out to 8, right? Like with Trigun, for example. ADV did the thin packs, and thin packs were a great economical way to collect things. Bandai had the Anime Legend sets. What was that?
No, I said absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. So Bandai, in the same way, had the Anime Legend sets, and to this day, like I said right at the beginning of the stream, I think that Anime Legends, the Bandai Anime Legends box sets are some of the best box sets that have ever been made, because they are nice and rigid, and they outlast everything. I mean, look at your thin packs. You look at the shelf wear on them and stuff. But the Anime Legend sets hold up really well. So Bandai was doing that. They also had, ADV and Bandai both had the, art box that you would fill up just like all the other companies were doing. And Bandai, I would say, had the best art boxes in terms of the quality of the print was significantly better. ADV was tolerable. Geneon was also more premium. And then Funimation, for the longest time, just could not decide what they were doing. They did a bunch of box sets where they would have two separate art boxes. One of them that had, like, let's say 6 DVDs in it, and one of
shit. 1 sec.
There we go. Yeah, so Funimation, they would do the two different box sets, one that had 6 DVDs and one that had 3 DVDs. But inside of the DVD cases of the one with 3 DVDs, they would have 2 discs. So they were giving you the 6 DVDs, but in another art box that was smaller. They did this for Kitty Grade and they did it for Spiral. And so, like, there's a lot of weird stuff like that and then Funimation did, like, as time went on, they started to get overly creative and ambitious with their box sets to the point where it got annoying. Like the Beck box set that has that's shaped like an amp, the School Rumble box set that's shaped like a locker that they gave you
the Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah. Well, wait.
Or was that Bandai? The Cowboy Bebop, was that Funimation or was that
Bandai had Cowboy Bebop back then?
Okay,
which box set? Okay. Did they
there
release?
Was one that was like this huge box, like it was just this huge box with a lid, like a present box almost.
So
I'm brown.
I think I actually have it in the photo.
Yeah,
you can only see. So I've got the Paul Champagne art box for that one because I love those. Okay. But yeah, it's just something we haven't even touched on yet. If a box set is enormous and obnoxiously sized, I don't buy it. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I don't want it in my collection. If you look on the light on the right side there, right above it is the Paul Champagne golden Cowboy Bebop art box. And then right below it, on the right side right here.
Okay, I see.
That's the Paul Champagne art box. So for anybody who's go ahead.
FDDNM said he's right. The Bebop box I'm talking to is like the Escaflowne Bandai box.
This is the Escaflowne box right here. This is actually not the box set box, but it looks exactly like this. For some reason, they released it with like 2 boxes that had that weird lid feature that you're talking about, and this one has the figure in it.
Okay.
So there was one that had a figure and one that had the 6 volumes of the show. But yeah, like like I said, if there's a box set that is oversized and it won't fit in the collection, like for example, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, I don't even want it. You could give it to me for free and I would still not want it. Although in that case,
that has a North American Legend of the Galactic Heroes that has a North American release.
Yeah, Sentai released this enormous, like triangle shaped box set for $800, limited to 1,000, which to me seems retarded because in the court documents that came out when I think it was when Gainax sued or ADV sued Gainax over. Basically, Gainax provided with ADV live action movie rights to produce a live action Evangelion movie. And then at one point, Gainax revoked the rights, claiming that they had the right to do so. And so there was a little kerfuffle there. ADV sued them. And in that trial, there were documents that were produced that showed ADV spent $1 million almost on the license for Crow Phantom Memory. Now, granted, companies were wasting money left and right at this point in anime distribution. They would throw money at anything, and it's like, I've seen Crow. I thought it was all right, but has anybody else heard of it? Like, this is not something you
Crow Phantom Memory, the one with the little DJ disc on the front cover. He looks like a DJ. Is that it? Like the picture, he looked like a DJ.
I don't remember the
With
cover.
his arm out,
The
like,
guy's name is Christmas. That's the only thing I remember about it. The male character.
like on the cover.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Anyway, but the point is that if they spent $1 million on a 26 episode series that most people have never heard of, and the people who have seen it barely remember it, like me, how much would you possibly spend on Legend of the Galactic Heroes, one of the most sought after shows for licensing in North America? Like, you'd spend a fortune for that, right? And you're going to tell me that they're going to release only 1,000 for $800. That's a maximum income of $800,000, and that doesn't even take out the fact that they had to spend money to produce the sets. So seemed absurd to me that Sensei Filmworks would go to the trouble of doing that.
Drax said, yeah, he's seen the anime. It's good, but it's not worth $900K.
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of their licensing fee, yeah, for sure. And it's amazing that they would put that kind of money out there. And maybe they were lying in their court documents because they thought it would be easier to beat Gainax. I don't know. But it just
crazy.
It's crazy, right? You would never think, like, how many could you possibly have sold of that to bring that money back in? It seems unbelievable to me. So anyway, so going back to your question, the way that, like, back in the day collecting, I would say, like I said, I would try not to pay full price for anything. So I would only pick something up at a main store if I felt like I was getting a good deal. Occasionally, for example, oh man, this was so amazing. At Anime Expo, I think 2008, somebody was giving away, they were, I think it was for Bandai. There were Best Buy coupons, and the way that it was produced, I talked about this in one of my videos. I think I'm probably going to tell the story wrong now, but the way it was produced, it had like $5 written on it, and in the fine print it said for blah 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 blah. And it was only supposed to be for, I think, Bandai sets, right? So I went out to I went out to a bunch of Best Buy. My friend actually, while we were there, so the person handing them out set them down, and my friend just walked up and grabbed the entire stack and gave them to me. So I went to Best Buy, and it was amazing because it was only supposed to be for Bandai titles, but if you tried to buy something else with it, the person running the cashier would recognize that they're scanning the barcode for the coupon and it wasn't working. So they would put it in manually. And sometimes, rather than take $5 off, they were putting in $5 as the total. Right? So I was getting shows from Funimation for $5 that were supposed to be like a box set price, you know? And there were other titles, like the Bandai stuff. Like I picked up Solid State Society, the Ghost in the Shell DVD. And this was for the actual way that the coupon was supposed to be used. That thing was released for $15. So you take that $5 coupon, I paid $10 for that movie, you know?
Wow.
And so that would be sort of how collecting back in the day, going to places like Suncoast Video, FYE, GameStop, Barnes and Noble, even though I overpaid for anything I bought there.
If Bob is still here, Bob had said that in videos years ago. He said Barnes and Noble's overcharged a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I lived it. Yeah, but occasionally, like around the time, so when I first started, like, you know, actively pursuing collecting, like I would leave the house with the intent of going somewhere to buy a DVD. Typically, like, it didn't matter what I walked away with as long as I got something that wasn't in my collection prior. Right. And around that time, all the Ghibli films were getting released by Disney, right? Or had been released and were in stores. And so you'd have to go to a bunch of different stores. And sometimes, like, the last one you needed, Porco Rosso, whatever it was, you would find it at a Barnes and Noble, you know, because they had, you know, they were sort of, I guess, they were a little bit more high end than you know, going to some of the other stores. Because like I said, going to GameStop to buy a movie, you're lucky if it even has the slipcover, right? Versus Barnes and Noble, where they almost always had them. So that in those situations, like that's another topic of paying more to make sure you get the slipcover, which is getting real irritating as anime collecting continues with companies that will release it with a slipcover, like a limited slipcover. Like if you didn't pre-order it, you're not getting one, or they do it for the first box set, but not the second box set, or what Discotech switched to the O-ring ones that have the rounded edges. So you've got like season 1 of something has the default.
Well, that's been going on since back in those times, because like Genion used to do stuff like that. Like Genion would have like a little red line like underneath the Genion thing.
Oh, that's for the signature series.
No, I know what you mean, but I'm giving you like a not necessarily signature series. Like it'll have like, for example, the artwork, a picture of the character on these first 4, and then fifth one have the picture of the character, or like the Nadia sets from ADV, like the thick ass first one and then the skinnier. You know what I'm talking about? The ADV box sets for Nadia.
Oh, for the box sets. Okay. I have the like, what is it, like 8 individual DVDs and then the movie?
Okay.
I have that. So I haven't.
The box set, the first one is like this thick, the second one is like this thick. So yeah, they've been purposely.
They'll never learn. The companies will never learn. So going back to that question you had about collecting back then versus now, I would say that there was a sweet spot when Sentai first started making their limited editions that I absolutely loved. The limited edition for Love Chinibyo and Other Delusions, Beyond the Boundary, where they were kind of reminiscent of the art boxes from back in the day. I loved those.
What year are we talking? What year are we talking?
Oh, probably like, I don't know, like 2017, maybe.
Okay.
When Sentai first started to really produce those. And then they went to the dark side and they started making these like enormous oversized box sets. And these box sets are like $130 each, right? They're outrageously expensive. And remember I was talking about how back in the day, Bandai had this premium quality box sets for their art boxes. Sentai uses the cheapest materials of any company. I cannot tell you how many times I have bought a box set and literally underneath the shrink wrap, the paper is torn because just in the shipping, like it just, the paper that's glued on around the corner rips. Right. And at one point I had like 8 copies of the premium edition for Squid Girl in my house because I kept buying it. And then what I would do is I would buy from Amazon and then buy another one from Amazon. And I would keep them and return them, within the 30-day period. But I had to keep buying them because if I returned it to Amazon, they just send me that one once I requested another return. Or another replacement, I should say. So yeah, like at one point I had like 8 copies of Squid Girl on my bookshelf, just trying to get one where the shrink wrap wasn't torn before it got to me, or worse yet, the disc is sliding around, which somehow companies have still not figured out how to not have that happen. And yeah, just Sentai's the quality of their box sets is trash, especially for how much they charge. Then again, then the Sentai sale happens and you buy it for like $12, like 100, like a 90% markdown on the sale price,
There's a whole lot of mind reading going on. You anime collector and the audience, because Drax, I was getting ready to say this and Drax said it. He said, if you think Sentai is bad, buy something from Media Blasters. Chances are it's a bootleg. And I was gonna say that anime, the ripped artwork underneath the shrink wrap. I think Anime Works was like notorious for horrible quality casing and stuff like that.
So actually, I'll say this about Media Blasters, and I've only got about 15 minutes before I gotta leave. But
cool.
The thing about Media Blasters is that the thing I would say that really tanked the channel in terms of the old content I produced was that I started looking into the one-to-one bootleggers, right? So these are DVDs that you would look at them, and even if I handed you a bootleg and the real box set, but I didn't tell you which one was which, you would look at it and you would go, okay, I can see minor differences here and there, but I couldn't tell you which one's real. You know, like maybe this one is slightly more saturated or slightly less saturated, but the printing quality is nearly identical, other than maybe just a slight change in the hue of one of the colors, and you just cannot tell the difference, right? Media Blasters got hit hard by these one-to-one bootleggers when it came to their Rurouni Kenshin box set,
I was going to bring
economy set. Yeah. So yes, in that regard, you will absolutely get bootlegs if you pick up Media Blaster sets, especially on eBay, and even Amazon. But the thing is that they're not the only company that's been hit by them. However, taking this to the other side, Media Blasters went through this weird period after the financial collapse in the bank bailouts in like 2008. AnimeWorks and them, they basically scaled back their company to like 5 employees, right? And they didn't actually go under. They just kind of went like hardcore low scale on everything that they did. And even some of their, their DVDs that they were still putting out there, it looked as though they lost the print documents and just went on to barnesandnoble.com and found the picture that has like the full label and just right click, save as, scale up, and printed that. Like I have a couple of DVDs that I know 100% are legitimate because I bought them directly from them at a convention, literally from Media Blasters. And I've got the old one that I already had and the new one, and you can see the pixels and they look awful on some of them. However, regarding the DVD-R, so when it comes to producing optical discs, right? Like CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, they go through a process called replication, right? Now, replication is where they make a metal die, like a die cast of the pits and lands that go into a DVD or a Blu-ray, and then they stamp that die onto polycarbonate. Or they inject the polycarbonate into it to cast it on there. Then they add like the aluminum and all that. That's replication. Media Blasters for a long time was using what's called duplication, which is basically imagine a computer tower, but it's only got a small component that's the computer and the rest of it is just disk drives. So you stick a disk in and it's a burn disk, right? And then all the other disk drives that are there are for putting blank DVDs in that they would copy, right? Or you would just use a tower and link it to another computer and burn to like, let's say 10 drives at a time. Right. Now this was a very beneficial thing for Media Blasters during the time when they were basically out of business, but kind of hanging on, because one of the most expensive things about producing discs is housing them in a warehouse. Right. And all that. So if you do print on demand, then all you have to house are the blank discs. And then when you get an order, any of the potential of any of those discs, they just become whatever you need rather than having to pre-order, 1,000 copies of this disc and that disc and hope that you sell them all, but not have an order that's so big that you wasted money by not ordering more, right? It basically takes the guesswork out of it. So Media Blasters, I will tell you though, they have ceased doing DVD-Rs. They are no longer duplicating. They have, thank God, somehow climbed their way back out from being basically a company with only 5 employees to now actually getting to the level where they're producing quality content again. However, I don't know who runs their Twitter account, but that person is a grade A idiot. And I have had several run-ins with this person. They had talked about somebody had bought their they had bought. I'm muted. Am I muted?
No, you're good now.
Okay. They bought their somebody had bought the Blu-ray of Doomed Megalopolis, and they had said, Media Blasters on their Twitter had said, sometimes I check out people's reviews of our products, and they linked the review of this person complaining about the image quality, and they're like having a laughing emoji, like they stretched it to 16 by 9 or something like that. And it's Media Blasters was misunderstanding that the person took out their phone and took a picture of the screen up close, and the photo from the phone was 16 by 9, but the DVD is 4 by 3. And so they're having this moment like, look how stupid this guy reviewing our product is. And then I have to point out to them that the person reviewing their product is not stretching it to 16 by 9, because there's a video, and at the very end of the video they kind of step back in a way where you can actually see the black bars on the side of their TV. So anyway, I'm hopeful that Media Blasters will improve with their Blu-rays and stuff, but whoever's in charge of producing them is a little special. I'll just say that.
So that's what you got to say for then and now.
Yeah. Well,
so that's the difference. That's the major difference that you saw.
I mean, it's changed gradually over time, but I would say that the major difference today that I hate the most is the fact that so much anime is getting released like every single week, impossible to keep up with. Like, it's at the point where the decision fatigue is so great that I would rather not get anything than pick something up, you know, in some ways.
Because so now it's probably dozens a week. So how much was it like back then? Maybe 1 or 2
shows?
Dude,
I as it is right now, like, well, back then, I would say maybe $50 a week, and I would try to stretch that for as much as I could. That's
$50.
$50 a week is what I would sort of my budget, and I would try to stretch it like I'm talking all the way back in like the mid 2000s, right? I would try to stretch that as far as I could. So if you're going to buy something from Barnes and Noble, you might spend $26 on a Ghibli movie. And then, maybe you go to GameStop and get 2 other DVDs for, $10 or something, right? Or you find those deals where you get a box set that, like, I'm sure this has happened to you guys as collectors, where you buy something that's the art box. You try to buy volume 1 with the art box, and you buy it on Amazon or something, and it arrives and it has the whole collection in there, right? And this is something that, like, the whole collection, that, second to last volume or so, is astronomically expensive. Like, for example, I did this I paid, I think, $800 for Welcome to the NHK, the volume 5, the rare one. Then I bought the art box to put it in, and the art box arrived and it had all of them in it. So I was able to convince the person I bought it off of to let me return it, because I hadn't opened it yet. I ended up spending, I think, $20 for the whole box set, thinking I was going to spend $800 just on volume 7,
Wow. So I guess you got to go. So I'll end it off with,
unfortunately,
question. The last question: your top 5 anime of all time. Okay. If you can.
Let's see.
So I know it changes. For me, it changes from time.
Oh yeah, it changes a lot. I can tell you without a doubt, my top 3 are Lupin the Third.
Okay. Everything movies, the TV show.
Yeah, I count it as a series, right? Like, okay. That's how I do my favorites. Lupin the Third. My favorite Lupin the Third movie is Farewell to Nostradamus. I'll just say that. But that's my favorite series is Lupin. And then from there, it's Salaryman Kentaro, which is one of the most bizarre watches you'll ever do. First disc is like, this is trash. Disc 2 starts and just doesn't stop. The rest of the show is so crazy. And then Master Keaton. And then honestly, like, I don't think I could tell you my 4th and 5th. I could list shows that I really like. Berserk probably maybe my 4th.
Like off the top, like, what is the best in your mind?
Yeah, so I would say Berserk would probably be there, and then let's see, something else. I'm sure I'm gonna immediately leave to go pick up my kids and remember.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Let me think.
Appreciate you for coming in.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me. Thank you. I'm looking at my picture over here.
I'm gonna be on his podcast this week as well. So you go type in the Anime Collector, and make sure you go over there, subscribe, check his channel out. He does these crazy long streams every week, like
Yeah.
10 hours long.
I don't want them to be that long. It's just so hard to continue to host the show when you're in the middle of working 2 jobs and everything.
It's good stuff.
It's brutal.
Good stuff.
So let's see. I would say a show that I saw recently that I absolutely enjoyed was Shield Hero.
Okay.
That was God. That was that was 2019 actually when I watched that. So that was fantastic. God, I'm sure I could come up with something else, but when you've seen so much, like, and this is the weird thing about me is that I will watch a show. This happens a lot with movies. I'll watch a movie and walk out of the theater going like, "Wow, that was awesome," and then immediately forget everything that happened in it. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. I think as an adult with 2 kids and stuff, I spend so much of my time constantly racing and getting almost no sleep and stuff that I just end up. I just like there's no room left to make lasting memories, I guess, for entertainment. I'll say Ghost in the Shell. How about that? Is the 5th for the series. Favorite aspect of Ghost in the Shell is Innocence, the 2nd movie.
Okay, wow. Yeah. That's usually not. That's a different opinion right there.
I mean, I love Standalone Complex. Don't get me wrong, but the 2nd movie is just like. Something about it I really like.
Psychological in comparison.
Yeah, I've seen it many times.
I appreciate you for coming on, man, and I'll let you go get your kids and stuff like that.
All right, man.
But tell the people where they can find you at and whatnot.
Yeah, so you can go to I think theanimecollector.com will still redirect you to the channel. So that's probably the easiest way. And then we host the OCA podcast. We try to do it every week, but it's really just become whenever I can do it. So you guys can go to ocapodcast.com or you can just go to theanimecollector.com and then subscribe, and then the content goes up there. So and then of course I'm on Twitter at CypherusMC. And I don't know, probably countless other places I can't think of. All right, man.
All right.
I got to split. Take care,
right,
man. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
See you guys.
Take care. All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. All 13 of you here. Great guy. Yeah, man. I told you, like he has a wealth of knowledge to give, and I don't know. I felt like it was right to have him on the show. Everybody that came through, FDDNM, Unkono. Shout out to Bob for coming through. John Knight. Drax, who else was in here? Aku no Rayo, shout out to you, man. Random 11, Cemetery Hill, thank you for coming through. Effing Anime Addict, thank you for coming through. Lord Kobe, I didn't forget you, Kobe. I saw you came through here, man. Who else? Nathaniel Rashford, shout out to you if you're still here. Flex One was in here. Shout out to Flex One. Cool. I don't want to forget anybody. I think that's everybody. Let me see who else was up in here. Man, Levi Gore. Shout out to you for coming through. And shout out to everybody else, man. Thank you for coming. Shout out to Seb. Oh, I didn't see you earlier, Seb. But shout out to you, man. Anyways, guys. Listen, I'm still kind of burnt out from that big video I put out last week, the 100 anime, but in another week or so, I'll be back coming out with more reviews, more stuff. You guys got it. Somebody asked me to do Beck Mongolian Chop Squad. That's going to be the next review is Beck Mongolian Chop Squad. Whoever asked me. Flex One said you need to interview Nails. That is impossible because Nails is like the only place that I can find, and trust me, I've tried to find him. The only place I can find activity from Nails is on Twitch, and I don't think he's been on Twitch. I checked it like not too long ago. He hasn't been on Twitch in like over a year now. So I guess he's like undetectable. But if he ever uploads, every time he doesn't upload, I try to comment and be like, hey man, can we get in touch? Because trust me, I'll try to get him on. But listen, man, another week or so, I'll be right back. John Knight said, congrats on your podcast. Thank you a lot, man. I'm gonna try to have more people up here that I can get in touch with that I think, and it's not about views and like, I had a connection to like Kenny Lauderdale. Kenny Lauderdale used to watch my channel and he had my notifications on, and I was gonna get him on the show. It's like I have a connection to Bonsai Pop, if you guys know them. But it's not about like the more known people. It's just about getting people that have something to say on here. But anyway, I see you guys dipping out now, so I'm gonna dip out too. Shout out to all you guys that came through. Thank you guys, the same recurring people that always come in and show me love. And I will be back next week. All right. Take care, guys.